welcome to this video where I'm talking to Mike Williams, who is a video presentation coach, and we're just going to talk about authenticity and about producing videos to build up your personal brand and also to help you become more visible and help you market yourself online, and specifically about LinkedIn. And I'm working with Mike because Mike is going to come and deliver a special video masterclass for my LinkedIn Mastermind, which is starting next week, which I'm really excited about.
Me too.
So yeah, I just thought, we'd have a bit of a chat and talk about why authenticity is important on video and how to make it easy, basically.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, it's great to be here, Charlie. And like you say, it's an interesting one, isn't it? Because everyone's making video, and I think everybody now realizes how important video is for your personal brand and for LinkedIn and for all of that. If you want to be heard, you need to be able to make video. But so many people feel like they need to sort of be professional, or they need to put on some kind of front. And I think a lot of that comes from the workplace, because people do put on a front a lot of the time. They feel like they need to be professional. And I like talking a lot about authenticity, which what it doesn't mean is bursting out into tears in front of everybody and telling everybody all of your personal stuff. It's not that. It's just about being comfortable with who you are, so that you can show up on camera as yourself, and you don't need to put up any kind of a front or a mask or a barrier. So that's really what I like to help people with.
Absolutely. And it's so important. And I see so many people all the time trying to be somebody that they're not, because they think that is what their market, their audience wants to see. And it's not the case at all. I mean, I did actually have somebody comment on one of my videos a while ago and said, it's just some feedback. It doesn't look very professional. And my response to that was, I don't care. I'm really good at what I do, and I'm learning how to do videos at the moment. So I'm just trying to get going, and I'm not going to try and be this kind of suited and booted person, because if I do work with you, I'm not going to arrive in a power suit. And what you see on video is exactly what you get when you work with me. People focus too much about appearances and personality rather than the transformations and the outcomes and the real tangible things that people deliver.
When she said that, what was she talking about? Did she tell you what she meant by not professional?
Well, the video, it was a webinar replay that I ran, and I think it was I ran it on the hottest day in the UK. So I was wearing like a sort of a tank top, and I think she said it looked like I was naked in the video. And I was like, I am not that comfortable to be doing to be recording naked videos.
As a way to get more viewers, I suppose.
I thought it was a really bizarre thing, because why would I do that? And why would I put that online in a professional space? But it is interesting how people have different perceptions, and you are never going to please everybody.
You're not. That's a really good point. And the reason I asked that question is there's a video that I've put out fairly recently, maybe 6 months ago, something like that. And it's a bit different to most of my other videos. It's me in a really scenic place. I don't know if you've seen it, with the sun going down. I've got my kids in the video, and I'm talking about quite a powerful message about taking responsibility. And so many people have said that video was amazing. It really kind of impacted me in a big way. And another person has felt the need to private message me and said, no offense, but that video was terrible. You seemed like you were trying to be a guru. It was the most cheesy thing I've ever seen. It didn't seem like you. And the way I recorded it was I was out with the family. We were watching the sun go down. Genuinely, we were just there having a good time. I knew I wanted to record a video, so I just set it up and I hit record, and I spoke from the heart. So, someone perceived that as being inauthentic or inappropriate in some way, but actually a huge amount of people thought it was the most amazing, powerful video they'd seen in a long time. So, I'll go with the positive feedback. I'll take the other stuff on board. But.
Yeah, because I think as well, that feedback is really valuable. So even if you do get the people that don't like it, it gives you a different perspective, and it gives you different things to think about. But you're never going to please everybody.
No,
and
you're not.
Somebody told me years ago, and it had a really profound impact on me. And it was that you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. And I was like, stop trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
And it's the same with sales and marketing. It's like, as soon as you stop trying to please everybody, your message will be heard by your ideal clients and the people that you really, really want to work with.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of the biggest driving force as to why I'm doing what I'm doing now.
Brilliant.
Is because I see so many people really struggling to get their message across,
yeah.
because they're just trying to please everybody.
Yeah.
And don't really understand the key people that they really want to work with and that they can have the biggest impact. Yeah. So I think with video, and I know because we've spoken about this before, that I really struggled with video. And in my previous career, I used to hide behind it. So there was always somebody that was more knowledgeable about that topic than me. There was always, somebody more important in the company. And I was like, it'd be better for you to go on film rather than me do it.
Yeah.
And then when I set up my own business, I was like, oh no, I'm my business, so I kind of need to do this.
Yeah. But
it was, it's had such a phenomenal impact on, how I do things. Yeah. Because I'm a little bit mad, like I'm all over the place, but people feed off my energy. It's one of the biggest sort of compliments I get quite a lot is that, where'd you get your energy from? And it's always good to bounce off that energy. Absolutely. You're never going to get that from writing posts, are you, really?
Well, yeah, I say that quite a lot to people. It's like they've been posting for ages, and when they finally make a video, I kind of think, well, okay, now I see you. Now I can really see you, really connect with you, and understand so much more about who you are. If it's an authentic video, or actually even if it's an awkward video, I still get a real feel for the person. But I can see beyond that awkwardness. Yeah. But I think there's this lovely analogy that a friend of mine said recently. So a musical friend of mine, we've both been in bands together before and that kind of thing. And he said, if the two of us with our musical background and our, I've got a background in sound engineering and TV and that kind of stuff. So if we went to watch a gig with that perspective, with that understanding that we both have, if there was a lot of feedback or the venue wasn't great, so the sound engineer was having a difficult time, or, there was some problems, or the drummer was rubbish, but the rest of the band were good, whatever was going on, the two of us would walk away going, do you know what? Actually, it wasn't a great gig, but, I could tell the sound man was having a difficult time and, the drummer wasn't great, or he was ill or something like that. It's worth going back to see them. Whereas someone who didn't understand those kind of, those finer points would just go in, they'd go, well, that was crap. I won't go back to that band. Yeah. They won't understand why. And maybe that girl saying to you, well, that was an unprofessional video. It's because she didn't understand probably why she was saying it. There were enough things within that video to trigger her to say, well, I didn't really like it for whatever reason.
I think as well, it's all a traditional perspectives. I mean, I come from very traditional backgrounds. So working in mining, maritime, surveying, engineering. Yeah. And there is that expectation and that perception that you do have to be, suited and booted and super professional. And I think, marketing and sales and everything has moved on so much in the last few years, and especially in the last 12 months. Yeah. And, everybody has an opportunity, whether you're working for yourself or you are working for a company, to develop your own personal brand. Yeah. Because people buy from people. Yeah. And that's kind of why, if somebody that's very good at what they do, if they moved from one organization to another, more often than not, their clients will follow them.
Yeah.
And I think that's why video is so incredible, because it helps you really get to know somebody. And it really helps them understand what your personality is, because people are drawn to people similar to themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. You could put on a suit, or you could wear a t-shirt, or you could be, maybe you completely cover yourself, but it's not about that. It's not about the clothes, is it? If you're able to shine, authentically and have that kind of natural vitality that, like you say, it attracts people and it keeps your clients wherever you go. If you're able to portray that on video, then you're going to be magnetic to people. Exactly. Whatever you're wearing, suit, tie, t-shirt, whatever, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And I think as well, like if you're just getting started with video, one thing that I think is really important to do is to bring people on that journey with you.
Yeah.
I said to people when I first started with this was, I feel very uncomfortable doing video.
Yeah.
It makes me feel very anxious. I hate it, but I know it will make a big difference. So I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But I was very clear about that, but what I found was that, yes, I did have a few people that kind of commented and said, they're not good, or you're waffling, or the lighting is really bad.
Thanks very much. Thanks for the encouragement.
but I love that
Yeah.
because it helped me understand, right, this is what people pick up on.
Yeah.
And they're not criticizing it, they were actually really supportive and sort of saying, yeah, this is great, but next time maybe adjust the light or do something different.
Yeah.
And I find that if you're very transparent about your journey, where you're at right now, people will support you.
Yeah.
And again, it doesn't matter where you're working. When I first started working in sales, I wasn't the salesperson that I was 3 years later. I was just starting out. But I didn't try to be this like super slick salesperson. I was very honest about what was going on, very honest, very upfront.
Yeah.
And people appreciate that.
Yeah. That's how you build relationships, right? With honesty.
Exactly. And I think it's just, in the same way that I was afraid of doing video, it's like you're afraid of people perceiving you in the wrong way. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter.
No.
Because, if somebody really wants to work with you, or if somebody sees the value in the product, the service, or in you, and they will see the value in you, that, it's just a case of bringing them on that journey and just making sure that you are improving every time you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think something I talk about a lot is dropping the mask. So, we've talked already about being authentic is not having those barriers and those, any pretense, and actually being who you really are. Because every time you put something in the way of your communication with your audience, they're going to be distracted. They won't know why necessarily, but something will stop that message from getting through. So the reason we make a video is to try and communicate some kind of message. So that inauthenticity, or that discomfort, or that mask or that facade is a barrier to communication. But likewise, so is tech. If the camera's not set up right, the lighting's not quite right, or you can't hear somebody properly, it's another barrier. So it's worth getting your head around these things to start with, or like you saying, well, this is, I haven't made many videos, sorry if the sound isn't right, I'm getting a new mic next week, or something like that, just to let people know. But once you get those things out of the way, and people can hear you and they can see you and you're being you, then you're in a position to say, okay, well, what's my message? How do I actually craft the message I want to get across? Because you've removed all of the barriers now. You're having a kind of a nice clean stream of information going, between you and your audience. So removing those barriers, the emotional, psychological ones and the technical ones, is just, I think, is such a great way to actually start engaging with your audience and doing what you're there to do.
Absolutely. And I think you touched on that about the tech side of things.
Yeah.
And I think I'm one of these people that I love to have the latest, next shiny objects. So if I walk into a studio full of these, all of this like fancy kit, I'm like, oh, well, I definitely need that before I can start recording videos.
Yeah. Before you can even begin.
I need to spend 25 grand on this like super duper studio or whatever. Yeah. But that's not the case at all. And you can start with something. I first started just with my iPhone.
Yeah.
And
that's all. If someone said, right, all I'm ever going to do is use my iPhone or whatever phone they've got, and I think you've got to get a microphone, but you can do it with your iPhone and a basic tripod, and possibly a light, depending on the setting that you're filming in. Like, that's enough. But if you do it right and you do it well, that is enough. In many cases.
If you're watching this, so Mike and I were talking about light beforehand, and light is something I really struggle with in my office. But I think the key thing is to not let it stop you.
Yeah.
And full transparency, I'm using a bike light to shine on the wall, which you might have noticed that it went dark when we first started talking, and it ran out of battery. So the show will go on. It's just the case, if you're in front of thousands of people that come to see you present or perform, you can't crumble just because something goes wrong. You have to carry on.
Yeah.
And I think, from your side of things, Mike, what's the one piece of advice that you would give somebody that's feeling really anxious, that's maybe not started doing video just yet?
Yeah. Okay. Well, so when you were just saying that about the show must go on, I was kind of feeling that, that anxiety that I know exactly what you're talking about. Suddenly something's not quite right, but you're live or you've got an audience, and then it's like, okay, I'm feeling quite anxious now. So the advice I would give, because I've been in stressful situations before with, as a technician as well. I mean, more recently I've been in healthcare, but prior to that I was involved with audio visual and in live situations. It's a lot of pressure. And if the tech goes wrong or you're not prepared for whatever reason, it can be really quite stressful. But the piece of advice I'd give is to, when those feelings happen, is to acknowledge them, maybe even call them out, depending on your audience, depending on the situation, maybe even call it out and say, wow, I'm actually feeling really anxious right now. Because calling it out, seeing it for what it is the quickest way for it to dissolve and for you to move on to another feeling. Because it doesn't need to blow the whole show, you know. In fact, calling out how you feel is a very authentic thing to do, and it doesn't damage your reputation. It doesn't, you know, if anything, it's going to relate more to people, because they'll see and they'll go, wow, you know, that person's just said they're feeling anxious, and I completely understand because I've been there too. Yeah, so I'd say that.
So important. Yeah, I think that's amazing advice, because it's not just for video, you know. I mean, I used to be involved in demonstrating very expensive technology, and it doesn't matter if you're selling kind of like, you know, £1 widgets or £10 widgets, or you're selling, you know, sort of £500,000 systems. There are going to be days that the tech doesn't work. There are going to be days that, you know, the cable fails, or the software won't load up, or something happens. And, you know, it really doesn't matter if you're selling, you know, very expensive technology or, you know, cheap technology. I think it's that if you pretend that something's going right, and it's, you know, you try to cover it up or you try to mask it, that's where trust and credibility crumbles. Whereas if you can be genuine and just say, you know what, this has never happened before, or you know what, this has happened before, but maybe our developers are working on a fix, but this doesn't actually affect the whole system. This is just a wrong time. Can I come back and do it again? People are a lot more understanding when you're honest.
They are.
If you try to lie, or if you try to cover something up or be somebody that you're not, people see right through that.
They do.
And it's, so it's not just video, but it's really, really good piece of advice.
They not only see through it, but you're distracted. You know, if you're feeling anxious and your head is then suddenly full of, instead of the message, your head is then full of, I'm feeling anxious. What's going on? How am I going to fix this? What am I going to do? I hope nobody notices. I hope no one busts me. You're completely distracted, and therefore you've disconnected from your audience. You know, just earlier when we were speaking, I don't know if you noticed, but there was a bang. That was my wife coming in and going and coming in. And I was like, okay, she's coming in. I'm doing a recording here. There's going to be a point if she doesn't go away, or if, you know, I heard my little one come in as well. And if they actually come into the room, I'm going to have to say, okay, we've got somebody else joined us now, because I can't just pretend it's not happening. It's really distracting.
Yeah, because it's obvious that that's happening, and then everybody else is like wondering, like, oh, what's going on?
What's going on? Yeah, because they've gone vacant, or they've, you know, they're clearly distracted. You know, it's okay just to say, okay, well, this has happened, or I'm just, or even to say, do you know what? I was just really distracted right then because this happened. Let me just, you know, let me just answer that question again, or something like that. You know, calling yourself out. It's okay to. It's like feelings arise, whether you're going live or recording a video or having a normal conversation with somebody. It's okay, because that's what being human is.
Exactly. I was just about to say that. It's just like, we are human beings. We make mistakes. We get distracted. You know, we can't control every single situation. And what you were saying about, you know, your kids coming into the room reminded me of that. Was it the political reporter who was doing like that really key sort of interview, and his two kids come in the room? I mean, it went viral. So, you know, more people saw that than they didn't. So,
because they related to it.
Exactly.
Trying to work from home, trying to, you know, like trying to put on this professional appearance, but there's real life going on.
No, so so I mean, the reason why I wanted to work with you and to get you on board in my masterclass, which is starting next week, is because it's all about being visible. You know, if you want to market and sell your business or your products or your services, you need to put yourself out there. And it's so hard with today, you know, there's so much information, there's so much content going out there. So it's really important for you to stand out. And especially if you're in a crowded market already, you know, a lot of people have come to me and said, you know, that's a struggle of theirs. You know, how do I stand out in a crowded market? And, you know, I always just say, well, be yourself, because people will gravitate to you. Because you're not going to be your competitor. You might be offering exactly the same services, but, you know, people will want to work with you because of the value that you give to them. And video is just, you know, now you can upload native video. You can also upload native video in LinkedIn groups now, which is really awesome. So, you know, I can teach video based on my own experiences of the last, you know, 4 or 5 months. But, you know, I really wanted to really add something extra to the masterclass and to bring you, because you've got all this experience. And also because of what you said, you know, I wanted to work with you because your values are very much in line with mine. And it's all about that, you know, being yourself, being authentic, and, you know, not trying to be somebody that you're not.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's so important. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to doing the masterclass with you. And you know, like I said, I can talk about tech, and I can talk about authenticity. There's so much, but ultimately it's about learning to unlock that vitality, unlock that authenticity, so that you can craft a message. You know, and I know you're talking about crafting the message as well, and you can do that. You can bring that same message into a video. It still works the same way. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. That message, you know, you interweave story into it. It translates onto video in the same way. So, you know, once people are comfortable being themselves, then they can focus on actually what am I trying to say? How do I actually say it? Don't need to be all caught up with thoughts about, can they see that I haven't got? I said, can they see I'm in my pajamas? Or
yeah, it's just, you know, you might be naked, you know, you might just be wearing a top and then nothing underneath, but that's okay, you know. that's your thing, you know.
That's it. Yeah, that's being authentic, I guess.
If that makes you comfortable, then that is okay. It'd be really funny. That's what I'll be thinking about whenever I watch people's videos now. It's like, you know, all because of this comment that this one person said to me. It's really funny. But in terms of like working with a coach, because I know that you do a lot of coaching for video, and you know, I do a lot of coaching for sort of sales and marketing and business development.
Yeah.
What, especially on video, what's your experience in terms of how quickly somebody can start producing, you know, amazing videos when they work with a coach, as opposed to when they try to figure it out for themselves?
Well, it's almost immediate. It's interesting because, I mean, the word coach, it's a broad term, isn't it?
Yeah.
And, you know, a business coach will be quite different to somebody who's teaching someone to be more authentic, or to be more comfortable being themselves. You know, my background is, after I was working in tech and audiovisual, I moved into healthcare. When we had kids, I trained to be an osteopath, and I ran a pregnancy clinic as an osteopath. And what that was all about, what the whole philosophy of osteopathy is, that as a human being, you have this natural vitality. It's always there within you. And given the chance, your body will heal. You know, sometimes there are obstacles that get in the way, and it's the osteopath's job to kind of, you know, facilitate the change of those obstacles so that the body can then heal again, rather than just going all in and sort of fixing things. It's trusting the body. And I found myself doing so much of the work I was doing was actually sitting there listening to people. And quite often I wouldn't even put my hands on people, because we'd spent the whole session just with me listening and just facilitating that kind of natural, I suppose, natural resolution of the psychology. And I just thought, well, basically what I'm doing here is coaching, and I love it. So I moved into that. And it's only more recently that I've combined the sort of the tech aspect and the coaching aspect, but it's very much about listening and allowing people to come to their own conclusions, and providing that space for them to do that. So rather than being, I'm not so much an accountability coach. I don't kind of crack the whip and say, right, you've got to do this now. It's more about helping people to be comfortable with who they are, and to realize that they've already got this. It's a physical vitality, but it's also like a psychological, you know, vitality. And when somebody's in touch with who they really are, it shines and they become magnetic, and they can express that on video. So my coaching style is very much about, exploring that authenticity and that vitality, and helping them to bring that out. So people are, to answer your question, people are making videos very quickly when they work with me. And it's interesting because the first videos can look very kind of stiff and awkward, but then we use that as a reference point. And then we can look at it and say, okay, well, why were you standing like that? And, you know, isn't it interesting how as soon as you hit record, you suddenly freeze up and you suddenly don't know where to look, and what was going through your head in that moment. And they can look back and go, okay, well, I was actually thinking so much about looking right or doing the right thing that I wasn't actually relaxed. So you know, it's a process, but at the end of working together, you know, I like to see people kind of thriving as you know, vital and expressive and authentic and kind of, you know, really magnetic in the videos they make, which I hope is what I portray when I make my videos, because I like to walk my talk, and you know, that's hopefully what I'm putting across when I make videos.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important about the coaching is such a broad term, and there are different coaches for different situations. And I think as well, you know, talking about video is that you really get to understand the person that you'll be working with. Because if you are going to work with a coach, you need to make sure that you're on the same level as them, you know, or that they're going to give you what you need. You know, because I love accountability coaching. You know, I'm very results orientated. I think, you know, I'm a very competitive person. So, you know, I've worked with people that aren't competitive at all, and that does work, but they want to work with me because I will, you know, sort of focus them to get those results. And as well, you know, because I'm trying to help people get, you know, sort of sales and referrals and new business from LinkedIn. I think sometimes that accountability is quite key, but I'm not, I think, what was it? I went on a coaching course last year, which was all about challenger coaching. And it was about challenge, but in a supportive environment. So it's not kind of like lovey-lovey, but it's not kind of, you know, I'm going to make you feel really anxious because you're not hitting your goals or you're not doing something. It's that kind of, you know, think of me as your like loving boot to help you, you know, achieve what you want to achieve. And I think as well, like, especially from a sales and a marketing point of view, is that, you know, kind of, you need those fundamental skills, but then you also need that kind of accountability to implement what you're learning. Because there's so much stuff online about, you know, there's sales coaching, there's marketing coaching, there's business coaching, you know, there's coaching to be more authentic, public speaking coaching. I mean, that I could go on forever. And, you know, I've achieved so much more through working with my own coach than just trying to figure it out for myself. And I think, you know, there's different skills that you need. And I think as well, you know, that's why it's good to work with you to come into my sort of environment, because, you know, I'm not an authenticity coach, you know, that's not my area of expertise, but I know how important it is. So it's good to have that different perspective. And I feel it's so important, you know, for video, because, you know, from my own personal experience, it can make you feel really anxious. It can make you feel really uncomfortable. And it's like people say to me all the time, it's like, oh, but you're so confident all the time. I'm like, yeah, but put me in front of a massive group of people, or if you put me in front of a camera, I'm like, oh.
Absolutely. It's really interesting that, isn't it? Because people say the same to me. Oh, you're always so positive. Or you're always so confident. But despite that, I've made videos deliberately when I've been ill. I made a video last winter when I was ill. My face was all red. And I made it deliberately just to show that, you know, this is normal too. I'm not always feeling great. I'm not always upbeat. You know, I've made videos about, you know, difficult times I've been through. I've made lots of videos that aren't a positive message necessarily. But people still say, oh, you're always very positive. You're always very confident. But it's not the case. I'm human, same as everybody else. And it's okay to, like I said before, to share that on video.
I think confidence, I probably not the right time now to talk about confidence, because I think it's just, and I suppose it's like, you know, my authentic self, you know, when I come across, I am, I don't pretend to be confident, because that's who I am. Like when you see me on video, when you meet me in person, if you do business with me, I am like, I'm consistent, because it's important for me to be that person throughout. But then I also see people who do videos come across as being very confident. They're online being very confident, but then you meet them in person and they'll ignore you, you know. And I think it's, the whole subject around confidence I find very, very fascinating because it's all around human behavior.
Absolutely.
And I do touch on that quite a lot in the masterclass, which is understanding the behaviors of your ideal clients. Because, you know, sort of some clients will feign confidence because that's part of their role. But not always is that the reality. I find it absolutely fascinating.
I do as well. It's so reassuring for people when they've watched your videos to then, when they actually come to meet you in person, for you to just be the same, exactly the same. And I've had that, people saying that to me before. It's like, oh, it's really nice that you're just the same. It's like it feels like I already know you, and you're as I expected you to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's quite telling, isn't it? But then that's when somebody isn't like that, they're confident on camera, and then when you meet them, they've put up a mask. It's that kind of, I've put on a, there's some insecurity happening, and so I put on this kind of shield to protect myself from anybody seeing who I really am, my authentic self. So I protect myself, but what people don't realize is then I'm not allowing people in, and people are just, again, they don't know why, but something doesn't feel quite right. Something feels inauthentic about the exchange. And so you end up alienating people or not connecting with people. That allowing yourself to be who you really are in all situations, it just facilitates deep and meaningful connection with people. It's so powerful and so important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Brilliant. Well, it's been absolutely fascinating talking to you about this, and I'm really excited to get the masterclass going this time round, and for everybody that's really fortunate that's joining the masterclass, that can get you to help them with their videos and get them producing confident.
I think it's going to fit really well with your curriculum. I think you've got some really cool modules in there. So yeah, I'm looking forward to being a part of it.
Oh yeah, it'd be brilliant. Awesome. Well, yeah, I'm sure we will speak again. And I think it'd be really cool to do more of these interview style kind of, I want to say podcasts. They're a little bit like a podcast, aren't they? So interview style videos, just to kind of talk about different things and kind of help people do more online, be themselves, achieve results.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks so much for your time, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Lovely talking to you, Charlie.
Awesome.